Is that the weather behind you?
Yes.
It looks miserable.
No, it's like can you see it now?
Oh, I see it now.
It's
Okay.
like gray. This is gray, but the sun's shining.
Okay, got it. We were looking at
Tricky.
it. We're like,
Tricky,
that looks like
tricky.
proper English weather.
No. It's actually nice. It's actually nice.
How are you? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm doing good.
Ah,
Yeah, doing really good. How are you guys?
yeah, doing well. And actually, Kev will kill me if I don't do the proper introduction of it. So, well, I'll start with doing like a quick, obviously Bev, friend of the show, second time, and then I'm gonna let Lori, giving you Lori heads up, you can introduce some fun facts about Bev because you've known her for so long that
Can't wait.
obviously I wouldn't have. I know I could see Lori's brain already like starting to turn. She's like, "What do I have?"
Well, I mean, Bev and I didn't play together, but I'm happy to do this. This is
Oh, I know
great.
you didn't play together, but you guys like all played in like the same time. Well, Bev, did you play
Yeah,
for WUSA as well too?
No, no, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't.
got
no,
it.
Just
she's not
Okay,
as
so
WTS.
old,
Lori, you
not as old as
Lori
us.
still holds that only title of
Oh
having played
yeah,
for all
she's the
women's
OG.
professional soccer leagues
She's
in the
the
United
OG
States.
for
There's
sure.
like myself and maybe five. It's
Box. Yeah.
Abby, Boxy, myself. I think Hope might be in there,
Wow.
and I think there's one other, and Lil. I think it's Lil because I think she played the
Hello.
very. Wait, no, she didn't play the first year of NWSL, so it's not Lil.
No, I don't remember her in NWSL. Huh.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right. Well, then, Lori, you get to do a fun
I
fact.
love
All
it.
yeah.
right.
Love
No
So,
worries.
all
I'm happy to do
right,
whatever.
Kev, you want to count us down? All right. Well, welcome to the Soccerish podcast. Christina Unkel, Lori Lindsay, and a returning friend of ours, Beverly Yanez, aka Bev, joining us, head coach of Racing Louisville.
This point could mean everything. Okay, so take it, run with it, let's go. Let's make sure we just put the ball in the back of the net, okay?
Right. I was a player that went box to box. If you told me to go box to box, I was going to do whatever I can until my legs fell off.
She will be our U.S. Women's National Team coach in the future.
This weekend's gains for everybody, I think, are massive to not have to put yourself in a position where you're like, because now we have Bev on here, so we can say these words.
Oh, yeah, we can say this word because we have Bev on it.
But he wants to know about the swear jar.
Oh, thank God we don't have one. I should say thank you we don't have one. I'm just kidding.
I love it. And that's my intro of her. I'm going to let Lori give us some more details about Bev. Fun fact, what do you got?
Okay, well, I don't know if I have a fun fact, but I just want to say that, well, first of all, thanks for coming on, Bev.
Of course.
It's always a delight to be chatting with you, whether it's in the coaching calls or here on this podcast. But Bev is currently the only coach and women's coach that played in our league and now coaching in our league. So that, I guess that is a fun fact. And I think it's extraordinary to just watch your progress and actually see you come into your own as a head coach in real time, really. And I love that. So
Thank you.
congrats and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That is a good
appreciate
fun
it.
fact.
I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Of course. That is an awesome fun fact. I know, like, Bev, when you were on it last time, it was just you and I. We got in deep into like a couple of different topics, and right, like life is life and continues, as we've talked about a bunch of those. But like that's I would say alarming, but that's a crazy fact that you were the only one who played and now coaching. And I mean, one of my goalkeeper coaches here at Tampa Bay Sun, Tristan, played in NWSL. She played for Chicago, I think Kansas City. Now she's a goalkeeper coach here in our league, in Super League. But like, how do we continue to increase that? Like, what kept that vibe? Like, how do we, now that you've been in NWSL, now you're coaching in NWSL, how do we continue to increase that our players turn into the professional coaches?
Yeah, I think it's as I've spoken previously about, a lot of it has to do with visibility and exposure, right? When you're playing, you're so invested in what that routine looks like and taking care of your body so heavily to ensure that you are at your full capacity every single day, right? Mentally, physically, et cetera, et cetera. But when obviously the story back for me was in Japan when I first wanted to become a coach and starting my license then the league started having opportunities for players to get licensing through NWSL courses. So when I came back, taking those courses really allowed me to go, is this something I'd like to pursue here? And that's really kind of where it started. So I think providing players the opportunity to explore something that may be of interest to them, right? Opportunities to look into the coaching realm, opportunities to look into different things that they may like to pursue post their career, and that was that for me. I had already knew that this was the path I kind of wanted to go down, and then I dabbled with it slightly with the licensing, and was like, okay, this is it. I'm totally in. I love education. I love teaching. I have a pure passion for developing relationships with people and teaching people. And that's really where it took off. So I think for me, it's just giving opportunities, allowing opportunities for people to kind of see, is this something of interest, right? It's difficult to commit to something so deep while you're still playing, because you want to give everything you can. You only get so much time. You don't know how long that time lasts, right? And so investing as much as you can while you're playing is still so important. But I think giving them opportunities to see if it would be of interest, I think is really important.
Is there anything, because I mentioned kind of watching you evolve and grow in real time, which is actually what's happening with all of us, right?
Yeah.
In whatever realm we choose. But for you, is there anything that's been completely, maybe not shocking, but eye-opening that you didn't expect? Obviously, you knew you wanted to go into coaching, but now taking over Racing Louisville, is there something that's been like, wow, I didn't expect that from a head coaching position, or just kind of coaching and being a leader of a team altogether?
Yeah, I think, people say it all the time. I guess I never understood it as a player. How could you, right? It's very difficult to put yourself in a space to understand a position that, you're trying to understand what you are individually within the group, and then how to collectively give everything you can as an individual to the group. And then as an assistant coach, right? You're trying to be the best support system for the head coach. What's the head coach's vision? How do I execute that? What do they like? How do they like it, right? They like things formatted a certain way. They like, obviously, language is very important, speaking that same language. So really investing yourself in what is the head coach's vision, and how do I support that as much and as often as possible. And the age old saying of, you never know what it's like until you become a head coach, it couldn't be more true. You don't know what it's like. And a lot of times I'm in this position and I'm constantly thinking like, as a player, I never saw this side or thought about this side. I thought about my contributions to the group, and that's all I felt I had the capacity for, right? But sitting in this office and thinking and having multiple conversations over things, you realize, wow, I didn't understand the depth whatsoever. Not that I was responsible to understand the depth. How could I? But I think that's a lot of like how I lead and how I try to manage is, I don't expect the understanding, because now being in this position, I understand it completely different. So I don't expect the understanding. I think just trying to develop a good relationship with the group is really important. But yeah, I think it's just so different. And even as an assistant, you're trying to understand, what would my way be, right? I'm learning things here. I'm learning things here. I'm learning do's. I'm learning don'ts. Who was I as a player that's influenced me to the way that I coach? Who did I play for that influenced me into the way that I coach? What a group do I have that influences me to the way that I coach? And I think when it ultimately comes down to it, I think I was a very hardworking player. And when I backtrack it, to be honest, I feel like I'm understanding who I am in the role, meaning I'm actually understanding who I am as a human being in the role. Who I was even as a player has now been answered through me as a head coach, which is so crazy to me, because I don't think I ever understood who I was as a player, like how I was viewed as a player. But I started reflecting on a lot in the position. And what I thought is, okay, you go all the way back to when I first wanted to become a professional soccer player at a very young age, right? What club soccer team I was with. I never played for the highest club soccer team. At that point, it was Premier, right? I only ever played for Gold. And I put myself in multiple positions to like outwork. Like that was always my pride. It's like, I will outwork you and put myself in a position that people didn't think I was capable of. And I'll do it because I'm going to want it more than you. Right. Mm-hmm. Go to my first year at Sacramento State, right? Loved it. Loved the people, the program, great people. But I said, in 4 years from now, do I think I'll become the player that I want to be, to take that next step to hopefully play professional soccer? And I couldn't answer it. So decided that, transferring was the best route for me. And during that time, I went and I'm crazy. I'm taking a $16,000 loan out at 17 years old. And my dad's like, you're crazy to go play in the ACC conference for Miami, and going, well, okay, this is all they have to offer, and this is all I can afford. This is like my max, right? I'm paying this thing off for forever now. But I took the chance because I said, I'm gonna
Racing, we
do
need
it.
a raise.
Right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to, at least at the end of the day, I've done everything I can, that if I fall short, I fall short, given everything. Right. And that was just that was my personality. I always knew that, like, I had big dreams, but I knew I had to work for them. I knew I had to work very hard to get them. And I was willing to take those gambles because of it. And so I think you start to see, like, who I resonate with, and obviously what I was like when I came into the league, right? I was a player that went box to box. If you told me to go box to box, I was going to do whatever I can until my legs fell off. I was going to go box to box for you. Whatever you needed me to do, I was going to do, because it was what's best for the team, right? And that's who I am as an assistant. Like, I associate myself with people I know are going to exert themselves and give everything they can to the group. And if they fall short, they fall short. But you can lay your head down at night knowing you're giving everything that you can. And that's who I am as a coach. And I don't think I would have ever taken all those steps backwards to actually understand the core of me at 13 years old, and why I really am so drawn to work ethic, why I'm really so drawn into controlling what you can control, why I'm really so drawn into, I don't think a player's meaning to miss the frame. No, of course not. They want to exert everything they possibly can to give you the best product, to make the team so successful. So let's keep tapping into how come they keep putting themselves in such good positions, right? And really finding those pieces. And I think it's been such a fun journey in that sense, more than anything.
I was gonna say there is a lot, and I loved each piece of it. And I'm gonna go back to because I think it's just funny, back to Lori's point, like, where our lives are still unraveling, which is crazy to think at this point in our careers, but we're still identifying new people and who we are as we go into different avenues in the game. One of the things that was of interesting of knowing, because we just had Freya on the podcast as well too, right? So she went as a head coach, her last position with Angel City, and is now an assistant coach at Kansas City Current. And you yourself have built a coaching staff of a lot of head coach experience that was in there. How do you balance that collaboration? Because like you said, like, a head coach is always, and should be, has a vision. They may be particular.
Yeah.
How do you balance having a lot of people who used to be in charge now being that support for you, and even vice versa?
Yeah, and I think it's allowing them to grow in the spaces that they want to grow into. I think part of managing a group is always managing your staff as well. And I think understanding what are their goals, what are their ambitions with the sport as well, and also bringing in people that you trust. You trust them enough that their voice is heard in front of the group. I'm a big believer in, if I feel it needs to come from a different voice, I'm okay with that. I think it's really important. I think they can speak to different players in the group. From hearing the same voice and a repetitive message, sometimes coming from someone else can have just a little bit of a different influence or a different impact. And I think just understanding kind of what their goals are allows you as a coach to help give them opportunities to lead in different ways. I've always been a firm believer in creating an environment where people are impactful in it, not just there to be in it. And I think it's, again, the main piece, and everybody says it, bring in a staff that you trust, and it's such a cliche comment, but it couldn't be more true. When you have people that you trust, you can give them so many things to contribute to the environment, whether it's they're taking the recap this week, whether it's they're taking a unit meeting, we've gone over the 4 clips, and you're fully aware that they're going to get everything that you need out because they know exactly how you want to protect the box. And it's aligning yourselves as a group, right? As a staff, just consistently aligning, even if it's, and I think I've been so lucky with that and so grateful for that, is, even if we use different language, they're trying their best to adapt to the language that, I like to use in the environment. And I think it's finding people that are selfless, vulnerable enough to be able to do that, and still be in a position to use their knowledge and still grow, to hopefully become what they would like to within the environment and beyond that, right? I'm not a believer in bringing people in to just keep them in a certain bucket. At some point, they will outgrow it. And what that looks like for them is so important. So yeah, it's just been building a staff that you trust. And I'm a quite, at least I hope that people would say that about me, because I think this of myself. So let's hope that's the case. I'm quite a vulnerable leader. I'm okay to say when I've got it wrong. I'm okay to say, look, I'm human too, right? I'm not always going to get it right, but I try to create and foster environments where people feel very similarly in that sense, right? Players are not always going to get it right, but I have a duty to not only help them grow within the game, but help them grow outside of the game as well. Once like I said, I hope that it lasts very long for every individual, because it's so fun to be a professional athlete. But at some point that comes to an end, right? And what that looks like in the future for them, and what those lessons feel like in the future for them, I very much so value. So I like to be very vulnerable, and like, this is who I am, and I'm not going to get it right, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that I can make the best decision possible with all the information and everything that I have.
Who's one of your biggest influencers? And I also just want to go back to a previous thing you had said about going to Japan and playing, and that was kind of a realization of like, okay, this is what I want to pursue, this coaching. What was that moment like? Was it like an aha moment, or were you starting to think, yeah? I would love to hear that. And then also, who's been a big influence for you in the coaching realm?
Yeah, definitely a aha moment. I got there at 24, and 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds were playing professionally. And we were playing for INAC Kobe at the time, which had 7 Japanese national team players: Homari Sawa, Shinobu Ono, Ji Soyeon was there at the time, obviously with South Korea. Some big time Naho Kawasumi. I mean, the list goes on and on. They were incredibly talented. And then there's these 16, 17-year-olds coming in the system, right? And I remember the first day we played a rondo. And the rondo was, I remember going home and telling my fiance at the time, just crying, going, practice is so hard. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have to think so much. It's not just a rondo. It's not this large rondo where you can, knock the ball around. As soon as someone touches it, 2 people come in. There was like a cone in the middle with a ball on top of it. 2 defenders had to work on pressure and cover. And then if the defenders won it and dribbled out, whoever they dribbled out through, those 2 came in the middle. And then the next day we had a bib hanging on a hanger, and it was like they were scooping balls, hitting the bib off. And then you're in the rounds you're in defending for 5 rounds. I'm like, what is this? I just am used to a 4v2, 5v2. What are you guys talking about? So I remember being in those positions, like, I have to think so much, like the rules, the restrictions, the ideas. And then the 16-year-old, 17-year-old players were just so quick, so thoughtful. I'm reaching out for a ball and they're slipping it through my legs. I'm like, what? I'm used to, like, I win that ball. What are we talking about? So I just felt through those experiences right away. I felt like I've missed something in my development in the U.S. Because they were so astute from a technical and tactical perspective, and they were so willing. I mean, they would sit down with me. It is the highlight of my career, of my life. They would sit down with me. They'd sit on the whiteboard. They'd move my magnet with my little headshot around it, and they'd go, we want you to do this. And then when this happens, you do this. And I'm like, you're right. Okay, I got it now. And I just came there as a hardworking 9, pressing everything that I possibly could press, just running as much as I possibly could run. And they're like, hold on, you need to select. You need to select when you need to put pressure on the ball. Why? How would the selection process? And they sat with me every single day, and we played year round. Like, at that time, the league in the U.S. was not playing year round. It was like 6 months. So I was playing 12 months now. And my education as a player, I became a player I didn't even know I was capable of becoming in 2.5 years, that it was like, wow, how could I help inspire somebody else? And that's really where the education piece kind of kicked in, of they've taught me this, and I want to use this and my experience with this to give back and almost pay it forward. And that was really when it all started.
That's cool. I'm just going to jump in real quick, Christina, because I have 2 stories along those lines too. So I played with Homari Sawa, one of my most favorite players and midfielders to play with, and was like so humble and pretended like she wasn't even that good. I'm like, okay, you're a world beater. You're one of the best midfielders to ever play the game. And we would do these like 1v1 games, or just 1v1s. And she'd be like, Lori, okay, like, hopefully I can get the ball from you. And I was like, okay, what? Yeah, joke's on me. I literally was like on my hands and knees trying to claw this ball away from her, because she was just so smooth. It was just amazing. But yeah, she pretended like she was like not a good soccer player at all, and just so humble and just amazing. And then another time, though, to your point about just being over there in Japan, it's such an eye-opening experience. We were over there with the national team. I think it was before either the 2011 World Cup or the 2012 Olympics. I can't remember. But we did, after one of our trainings, we stayed and did a clinic for a lot of the younger players who were just like up and coming in like maybe youth academies, but also on the trajectory to play with their national team. And it was
amazing.
The most amazing rondos, to your point. Meg and I, Rapino, we were both like, they're better than us right now. Like this is an issue, and we're supposed to be running this clinic. We're like, go on, do what you want to do. Like it's amazing,
I
and
know.
it's like so interesting to see how structured it is at first, or it seems structured, but then like poetry is made out of that
Yeah.
structure. Because to your point, right? You're like running all around as a 9,
Yep.
and then they're like, no, do this. But then it's like once you get that down,
Oh
then it's
yeah.
like everything flows so seamlessly. Yeah, it's magic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's such
Is
an
that something?
incredible
Oh.
culture too.
Yeah, is this something like from the Far East below? Because I say that as being in North America, because I experienced something similar to that, like in CONCACAF on like referee training. Like we didn't get that type of referee training domestic stateside, and even in like CONCACAF and FIFA stuff, they would put us in, believe it or not, as referees, they put us in rondos, and sometimes they were throwing the ball, etc. But there was always a mental stimulation side, right? Where you put different cones and all of that, and different colored cones, and they wouldn't even tell us. Like you kind of had to just show up at the field, and then the people that had been there longer knew exactly what the game was, and us Americans were always lost, and we're like, oh, every time they do this we're supposed to go to orange cones, right? Every time they do this, like, so I think that might be like, I don't know, I'm just curious if you guys have seen that around the world where the coaching style has a more mental work in what we traditionally do here stateside.
Yeah, it's a good question. I know for a fact that I cried for 6 months straight. So that's all. And my head hurt. Like my head actually hurt. I had to actually like take ibuprofen because my head hurt. That was me at 24, still trying to figure out the world. I'm still trying to figure it out, but you get my point. Being very young, being away from home, that far away from home, that large of a time change. There was a multitude of factors into it, but I mean, I felt like so challenged. And then I came back, and it was so interesting to me because to be in such tight spaces for so long, it's like I came back and felt like when I did a normal like 5v2 rondo again, it felt so large to me. Like I felt like I had so much time and so much space, and it was such a different perspective coming back. That really was, yeah, very eye-opening to me. But I don't know if it's like that everywhere. I just know that my experience there was definitely very difficult to start, but became one of the most yeah, life-changing, I think, events. I could definitely still, every time someone asks, like, where did your life kind of work itself out, it was that. And going from the league folding at that point to that experience, what a dip in two different directions that I could have never, ever expected. But I remember, I mean, people will still ask you because we were there playing against, we were Sky Blue at the time, playing against INAC. And that's really how the whole thing came about. They invited 4 players to training and then ended up signing 2 of the 4. But we were in the game playing against them. And I remember, I'll never forget, as a midfielder, I turned around and asked the ref, I'm like, how much time's left? Like, I'm done here. We've been spun. I mean, I must have done like 60 twirls all game trying to figure out where the damn ball was, while they were just passing around us, just so in sync, just having so much fun. I'm thinking, wow, this like surely you gotta tell us when the time's up here, because I'm not sure how many more circles we're gonna be able to run. And that was when I first was like, I need to see what they do at training. And they came on the bus and said 4 of us had been invited, and I was like, please pick me. Like, I need to see what they do. What do they do at training? And then I got invited and went to the first training and was buzzing. They got invited back, and then we got a knock on our door, the 2 individuals at the hotel, and asked us if we would be interested in signing for the team for a year. So really weird how it all worked out. And then, of course, Laura and Seattle came to play against us, and they asked me after the game, "Are you American?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually I am." And that's how I got back to the U.S.
Oh, that's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's a really wild story, but honestly changed my trajectory of like, I'm going to play for as long as I can because I love it. I enjoy it. But my next step is coaching. It's just a matter of when, how, where.
And now at Racing Louisville, with speaking of, I wouldn't say headaches, but mental mind challenges and mindsets, right? You guys are in contention. You guys are gunning for the top 8. How is that right now for you, right? Getting the players, the confidence, the mindset, like locked in, to your point, getting them into that playoff position, it's that playoff run.
Yeah, look, I think, I've spoken about it a lot, whether it's media, broadcast, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just so proud of the group this season. I think we've really honed into this identity really early on. And it's one thing to have an identity, speak amongst the group with that identity, the group to buy in. I think it says a lot about them and the group that we have, and I've complimented that quite often. I think we have good people and we have good players. And I think that combination and that mix with the true identity that they feel very bought into, that they feel very proud of, is what's really carried us through the season thus far. I was very transparent kind of early on once we had that San Diego loss at home 4-1, and kind of went back to like, here's what we did in preseason that put us. We went back to the roots of the principles that we had been discussing. We maybe veered away from them a little bit and was too game plan oriented and heavy, and kind of came back to those deep dive in the principles are really our core that we had trained for so long and for the first part of the season. And they're just so bought in, and it's something that I even discussed with them today is, how does it make you feel to know that when people play you, they know that we are going to work hard for 90 plus minutes? Like, how does that make you feel as an individual to have such an identity that people know, shoot, we're up, we got to be up for the task, because we know that in both transitions, they're going to get back behind the ball. They're going to get involved in attacking transition. They're going to try and cause headaches, obviously, out of possession in that press, and withstanding it for a long time, right? It sure makes me proud to know that they have bought in so heavily. I think it's one thing, like I said earlier, to have the ideas, and it's another thing for the group to buy in and run with it. And I'm so proud of everything that they've done up until this point, and so proud of what they'll continue to do with these last two games. But I think the mindset's been very clear. We've got to take it game by game. I think that's controlling your controllables. We're obviously in a position right now to control what we can control. And it's a privilege to be in this position. But yeah, I mean, look, I just, even last game, speaking before we played Chicago, just live in the identity, enjoy the identity. And I just feel like the group's just done so well and has worked so hard. Different people have been called upon, whether injuries, so many different pieces. And I think they've done really well when they've stepped in. And I just think as a group, we have a group, and you don't oftentimes get to say that you have a group that's fully in and fully invested in. And yeah, I feel very excited, very grateful. I know that, no matter what, there's going to be nerves. And I tried to speak about that today. It's very natural because you care about what you do. If you didn't have nerves, it'd be a problem, right? It's just controlling them as much as we can, and that they are a good thing, and embracing them is really important for us. So yeah, I think it's an exciting time. I think we feel like we're in a good spot, but we just want to keep being true to who we are. And I think authenticity is key right now. I think we've showed kind of when you look at our jerseys now and you see the green, or you see the, what's it called, Argyle, you know what to expect. And I think that was the root of it. Like, after postseason and all the reflection I had as being a better leader, I needed to be a better leader. I needed to bring a bit more of an identity to the group. And I think the excitement around the group's acceptance of that and embracing that, and now being in a position where I feel like you see our jersey and you kind of know what to expect, I think is success. So we feel very, very excited for these last two matches.
I'll leave our producer Kev has his own special question. And Lori, do you want to ask this one?
Yeah, because I don't know what it is. So that's the issue. Anyway, we know you have time constraints. This is our last pressing question,
Okay.
again, from our producer Kev, who we love, but he wants to know about the swear jar.
Oh, thank God we don't have one. I should say thanks we don't have one. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
Or else I'd be in debt. Let's be honest. And you know what? So many times I've tried to work on it. And, my mom's so funny. She's like, I know what you got from your dad. You got the F word from your father, It's so funny. But yeah, no, the swear jar is, if it were a thing, I'd be in debt. So let's just be glad that it's not a thing.
I'm glad it's not a thing. And at the end of the day, I think I read it's probably just like subconscious bias that like people who swear, the relationships are more authentic and real, and you really know. And I'm negotiating a CP deal with two gentlemen from New England. So it's great. We're just left and right, just cussing left and right. And it's like, oh, this feels so good to be negotiating a huge deal, cussing at the same time.
It's Passion.
All in jazz. Oh, definitely passion. Well, I mean, you hit the word, I know last time in our podcast, authenticity, right? This year it's this, or this podcast, you've hit this word identity. And I think I agree with you. Algar, the green version of your guys' kit, like you do, you come in, you know the team, you know what you're going to be expecting, not in a negative way, but in the saying this is their philosophy of play, right? When you say Barcelona, we all know what that looks like, right? When you say certain teams, we all know exactly what you're going to get. But it's in a beautiful way to say that. So thanks for doing that. I mean, we wish you all the luck in the playoff contention push. I know every game, every point matters. That's what always happens in NWSL. Like it always comes to that wire.
For sure.
And just not that I am someone who can really necessarily say this, but I'm going to say it is that just really incredibly proud of you. Like I said, I've always, admired your career, who you are as a person on and off the field. Yes, I know as a ref, but I could see the box to box player in you. And I always appreciated like the hard work, effort, and just the rebound mentally of seeing that to you as a player, to see that as to you as a coach, and importantly at some of the hardest moments of your life. In this past 6 months, like I said, I'm not really in a position to be able to say I'm proud of you, but like just you fucking crushed it and keep
Yes, we
crushing
can.
it.
We
So
are proud of you. You're doing such an amazing job, and we love your team. And it's been so freaking fun, Bev. And just congrats, because as a player that and a friend that played during the same time as you, just see the trajectory of for all of us of the league, but then also again just watching you coach and find your identity as a coach and the identity of your team has just been so special. So congratulations. So yes, we are proud. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. I have so much respect for you guys, and thank you for having me on. And yeah, I appreciate it. You don't often hear that. I was telling the players the other day that my dad said it for the first time in a while. He just called to tell me he was proud of me, and I'm like, whoa! You just get so in the midst of things, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It feels so good
Yeah.
because you don't often hear it, especially in this role. You just don't. That's the reality. So it does mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate that. So thank you guys for all the support and for having me on.
of course, no problem. Have a great one. I see training's done, so go back to film tape and strategy and all that other good stuff.
Here we
Thanks
go.
for taking some time out.
Thank you guys. Take care. Okay, you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, talk to
You
you soon.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was awesome.
She's so good. She is
I know it's
so
so
good.
great. I'm telling you, it's been wild to like even in like how sometimes you're just kind of like doing like this and then all of a sudden whoosh. I feel like
Yes.
that's what it has been like last year, but even this year, it's like Carm, who's such a good friend of mine. I feel
Mm-hmm.
her being her assistant, but then also when she left
Yeah.
right after the international break, it almost was like another step for Bev because she was like, okay, got to be even better leader now. Here's like an important person that's been kind of behind the scenes as my assistant. So yeah, it's just been so wonderful to see her evolve and like grow and take this team to new heights. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat it here, Lori, too. Like I had, it's an interesting thing because I even have a player on my team right now that I refereed her entire college year. And when people would ask me all these questions about, right, Denise and our, hiring her and there's different players, I'm like, I saw them go through adversity on the field, right? You could see the mental change of a player's mindset. Bev
Yeah.
was one of those players where like literally, especially when she was playing for the Seattle in those years, it's just like I knew what to get from her, and I actually knew where she was. So I was to make sure I wasn't in her space, because if not, she would probably crush me from the back. Not in a negative way, just like probably run through me. But just like all the stuff that she's gone through professionally, personally, like probably hardest year, but at the same time, the year of the biggest growth and the year of the identity factor of who she is. But like I said, she will be our U.S. Women's National Team coach in the future. You could just tell like it has that
Yeah.
mindset, that ability, the authenticity. Yeah, no, I really, really hope this for her. Right, getting into the playoffs. It's everybody deserves it, but sometimes you want to be like, nah, she really deserves it. So, good friend of the podcast. Stories are really good. I know she did the podcast with me, and then Lori, like always awesome to have you on because like I love your stories as well too. I can only imagine
No,
like
I
you and
see that.
Rampino being like,
I
what the
haven't
hell?
even come close to telling very many stories, even though I have a ton. So
Oh, they're great. They're great. I know it's because Kev always gets on us, right? Because we're always talking to the guests for like the full 15 minutes. And we're like, okay, bye. We're like, oh, wait, what's our story? What is our story? How are you? Like, you've been busy. You called the big Orlando game this past, right? Was it
yeah,
this
huge
weekend?
game for
Yeah.
them. Yep. And then I'll
Huge.
be on the Orlando, again, they're playing at Washington on Saturday. So
Mm.
that's a big game, which is a rematch of the final from last year. But also, as we're going to see with a lot of games, a lot of implications. Orlando had just clinched, which is awesome for them because they look like they were on a major decline. And credit, they
Yeah.
were able to kind of these last 3 games get 2 wins and a tie. So they've course corrected majorly. But Washington secured the number 2 spot, home field advantage. But then Orlando, with that win against Portland on Friday night, they secured a playoff spot, but can also, but they need to still pick up points because they want to secure a home field advantage, is just the best way to say it.
Everything you've seen, what would you project as your top 8? Like those who make it through. I know it's tight, but like
Yeah.
right now at this point, you're talking about the mentality of the players. You're talking about probably the culture of the club. Like it's everyone scrapping. So what's your kind of pulse on it?
Yeah, I do think that the 8 that are in there right now, which is Kansas City, Washington, Orlando, Gotham, Seattle, San Diego, Portland, and Racing Louisville, I do think I think that we're going to see those top 8. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but I just think with the way things have gone, um, and this is also me just like with my feeling of like, okay, they're continuing to claw, they're continuing to find ways to get wins, those top 8 teams, even though they fluctuated outside of the Kansas City. But that's also me without looking at like who they're playing next too. North Carolina has a very much like a winning culture within their club. So to see them sitting outside of the playoff spot, I think it's a tough one to bet against just because of that. And they have been playing some good soccer. So if there's one, I could see them kind of really making that push. But they're still 4 points outside. So you really are having to pick up points these last 2 games. And the tough part is at this point in time too, is we have one game this weekend and then international break and then decision day. And sometimes that's really tough when you've gained some momentum and then you have that start and stop. So this weekend's games for everybody, I think, are massive to not have to put yourself in a position where you're like, because now we have Bev on here, so we can say these words.
Oh yeah, we can say this words because we had Bev on it.
So to be like, now we have to get points on decision day, even though it's like people who are in the broadcast world, that's what you want because it makes it so fun and you're checking in on all the other games. However, from a team and a coaching staff and that organization, that's the last thing you want to do, just with the choppiness, I would say, leading into decision day and the playoffs.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for them to take a look at that calendar because, like you said, from pure entertainment purposes and abiding by the calendar, it works. But then it's like getting that feedback and that input from the
Yeah.
sporting side, right? But delivering the best product to be on TV, maybe from a sporting side, but from pure chaos. Let's give us the chaos, right? That's what we want to see. Okay, well, you've covered like the league for pretty much the entire season. This is the first year the league has not had a draft, right? Everything's been free agency, recruitment, etc. Have you seen it, or do you feel like it's affected the league in any way that they haven't had the draft and that they've been going, like the rest of the world, like looking, scouting players, building that, or too early to tell?
I don't know if it's too early to tell but that might be the right way to phrase it. Because I was going to say,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say there's felt like this huge impact from from like a team aspect or just like a league in general that I've been like, oh goodness, we didn't have the draft, like the league's in shambles. No, it doesn't feel like that at all. However, I think what happens and why you worded that correctly is that too early to tell because we have an expansion, 2 expansion teams coming in Denver um, and Boston, and you need to fill out those rosters and the drafts, whether expansion drafts previously or college drafts, really help to fill out those rosters. So that will be interesting just to how those 2 expansion teams are able to recruit players, sign new players, whether they're coming out of college, whether they're leaving college early, or just from other teams, right? To get new experience and players to be able to sign new contracts and potentially go to closer to where their hometown is, whatever all the different things are. I think that's where it maybe is too early to tell. However, what I think too, and this is more of just like an individual aspect, is that it doesn't feel like you're always going to get as many opportunities, right? Because when you had a 4-round draft, you would be picking players throughout all those 4 rounds, depending on how many picks you had in the draft for each team. And it at least invited those players in. And we have heard many stories. Kaylee Kurtz, as I just mentioned, I believe Kaylee Kurtz is one of those. You get drafted, because I was just mentioning North Carolina outside of the playoffs, but you have, I think Ryan Williams as well on North Carolina. You have these stories of these players that were drafted or undrafted, but they were in a list, right? And so they were brought in, and there's no way that a lot of teams would take a chance on them, most likely at this point in time, when you're just signing players, you're looking for the best players. Like Maddie Darlene brings up, she was one of the top players in college at North Carolina last season, comes in, makes a huge impact with Seattle. She was always, whether we had a draft or not, going to be one of those top picks. But it's those players that maybe go under the radar, and now teams aren't looking as deep, or there's not a list provided of like some of the teams, the players that have registered for the draft. So it's harder to identify unless you're really digging deep and you have the personnel in your front office to do that type of scouting. So that's where I think maybe still too early to tell, but also is one of those things where like, okay, you might not have those stories that come out of like the players I just mentioned that we've gone undrafted, or we were really low, but we were brought into camp and we performed well, and we kept plugging away.
I think, I mean, you hit it in the head though. It's just like having to sign a full committed guaranteed contract, right? Which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just at the end of the day, when you put on your GM hat, you're sitting there saying like, hey, how do we know this person, right, is the right fit model for us? I think the combine's going to help with that. The NWSL combine, to your point, like that's going to create that list of, you know, those that we all know from, I always call it the blue bloods, right? The blue blood schools, literally it's like Duke, North Carolina, all of those that are would have had the chance, going to have the chance, they're going to have some impact. But you know, those that are under the radar, that combine is going to really, really help with those. It'll be interesting to see that. I know we got the Division II pushed back another year, that NWSL was going to, I think that would help too, right? People getting their experience. I think it's an exciting time. 2 expansion teams. Gosh, they're going through pure free agency. I know I just get to talk to their GMs. They're great guys, Kurt and Edward. But it'll be, I think we're going to see a lot of different unique movements in the next 2 and 3 years. And, you know, even something that's going to broach our shores already has is, right, the women's, Barclays Women's Super League over in England, right? Just having committed to new minimums for their players. I think it's like 40 or 45,000 pounds for minimum salaries. Like that moves the needle. That moves the needles, and it's in a competitive environment to be able to get those times and those minutes. So excited about that.
The one thing that I will say, though, is the autonomy for these players is what is, for me, most important, right? Because you get to choose. They get to then have, you know, we all understand in some ways, and I've heard current players talk about this as like a draft. It's an exciting time, right? In terms of like, okay, am I, you know, draft day is what we've known in American sports, but it's also can be one of those things too, where it has a adverse effect where you don't go as high as you think you're going to go. And so then it's like, okay, a mental struggle in that regard. So the autonomy for these players to be able to choose and talk with these organizations, these clubs, to be able to, kind of figure out where they want to go and what's the best fit, I think is something that can't be overstated. And we will see that benefit because players are going, and we already currently are, right? Players that are coming in that are young and able to make an impact immediately because they're feeling at home. They feel welcomed by the environment because of that commonality to say, hey, yep, this is the environment that I want to be in.
Thank you for watching the Soccerish podcast. You can follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and as well, follow us on social media. And we'll see you next week.